to the Diversity is Lit Book Club discussion. Today we are going to be talking about White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I don't know that.
I like that, Heather.
Oh, phone, yeah. I also could hold up my phone because I listen to the audiobook. But hello, if you are new here, this is the Book of the Month discussion that we have every month. And we vote for our book over on our Goodreads page. So everything is linked down below if you are interested in checking us out. What we do is we talk about the book, our thoughts, our favorite quotes, characters, things like that. But we do go into spoiler territory. So if you have not read White Smoke, feel free to close out of this video, read the book, and then come back and watch our discussion. So if you don't know me, my name is WriteHollyDavis. I am a YA and middle grade fantasy writer, and of course, reader of all genres. And the host of the book club, and I'm happy to be here as always. And oh, Vanessa is here, yay! Hey. Okay, and Alicia, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everybody. It's good to be here again. I'm excited to see you all. I've missed you. So I'm writer Alicia Grumley. You can find me on Instagram at that same name, and you can find me now on YouTube on that same name.
Oh shoot! Did I change my?
Oh,
I have to see if I changed your link.
It's okay if you didn't. Don't worry. There's only like 2 videos there, guys. So. Not a big deal. But I was to say, I am I would say predominantly a young adult fantasy writer, a poet. That's my first genre and preferred writing medium. But as of this nano, I'm working on a new adult contemporary story. So that is a new genre for me, and it's been going well. So, yeah. Happy to be here.
Vanessa, do you want to go?
Sure. I'm Vanessa. I write YA fantasy, paranormal, and horror. And you can find me. I just changed my username on Instagram and YouTube. So it's Vanessa Marie Books everywhere. So that's where you can find me.
Cool. I'll have to change your link in my description box.
What is Nano? We're just going to let it be Nano, and the links can get changed in December.
Yep. I actually do have your YouTube video or your YouTube channel, Alicia. And Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Venkat, known as Write Heather Venkat on the interwebs, and I am a middle grade and young adult fantasy and contemporary writer, and I am happy to be here.
And Heather, how do you know Holly? For anybody that's not here.
Oh yeah, we're twins. Holly and I are twins, and she is visiting me. So at some point we'll be in the same camera together. Yeah, we'll merge.
Lois is here. Hello.
Hi, Lois.
And James is here.
Hey,
hi, James.
Good to talk to you. Say, how's it going?
So we are doing something new from last month's discussion of the taking of Jake Livingston, and now also along with our kind of spoiler warning, we'll also be giving trigger warnings. So the trigger warnings, which are not, we try to do as best as we can to get all of the triggers, but we might not. So, but these are the ones that we collected were bed bugs phobia, drug use, overdose, racism, anaphylaxis, addiction, blood, arson, murder, and incarceration. So
I think I was gonna say I can't think of anything else to cover there. So. Yeah, we definitely did that with Firekeeper's Daughter. We kind of were like, we should have trigger warnings for people on that.
Yeah, we're like, oh wait, this is kind of important.
So, and if you guys find something in one of our, oh yes, I was gonna say, I'm actually in my co-working space, but
All of the walls are colorful and beautiful.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, if anyone finds anything and they want to post it in like our Goodreads group forums, like for that specific book, feel free to do that. And Vanessa was so kind enough to find all the trigger warnings for the book poll picks because I was way behind and unable to do it for this month. So I appreciated that so much. So we know we're going to have another good discussion as always. And our first question, so feel free to also put your answers into the chat. What are your general overall thoughts on the book? So did you like it? Did you not like it? Why or why not? What did you rate it on Goodreads, or what would you have rated it? Does anyone want to go first?
Vanessa, I was saying, or Heather, yeah, like.
I just wanted to say this is not the first Tiffany D. Jackson book that I've read, but I think this is the first where she's kind of dived into like the kind of paranormal horror genre, and so sort of already knowing her writing style, I knew that it was going to be, that she was going to draw, you in with the characters in the story, which I felt like she did do. I felt like it was really easy to read, just like the flow. I was able to kind of keep track of everything. I liked it. I wanted a little bit more at the end, which we'll probably talk about. So I gave it like a 4 out of 5. But I enjoyed it. I won't go into like kind of spoilery things though, but I ended up listening to the audiobook, and even though I liked that, I felt like I should have actually read it. But it's not that the narrator wasn't good. I just felt like kind of like the page turning and the tension, like I could kind of control that pace. So
Vanessa, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So this was the first. It sounds like there's an echo.
I can hear an echo too.
I don't hear an echo.
I can hear one. Can anybody in the audience hear one too?
That's so weird.
I thought it was just anyone, so I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Can any of you guys hear an echo? Let me mute myself and start talking and then see if it changes.
Hey. Okay, I don't hear an echo.
Yeah.
I was also muted. Do we hear an echo with me?
No, it's only with Holly. Holly, you gotta come in here. Just come in here.
There it is. There's the merge. We told them it was gonna happen.
No.
Oh no, we're gonna lose Holly. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Oh no.
We'll kind of have to share where our notes are, but that's okay.
Oh no, what's gonna happen next? Everyone, it's like a paranormal situation.
That was weird.
Oh wait.
Oh,
that's not what I was
expecting. Keep talking without me. Yeah, keep talking without me because I have to email I have my notes on here, so I have to email that.
Okay. So I know what to talk about. Now, can you hear an echo? Yeah, I can still hear an echo. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I was saying, this was the first Tiffany Jackson book that I've read, and so I didn't know her writing going into this, but starting it out, I really, really liked it. And I was loving it until the very end. And unfortunately, the ending kind of ruined things for me. I was so ready to like give this 4 or 5 stars and put it on my favorite of 2021.
Oh, really ruined it for you.
And the ending, I was just like, I guess not. So and it's just a personal preference thing. I really hate open-ended stories where there's a lot left off, where you kind of have to make up your own ending with what happened with all the characters, and there's all these questions left unanswered. I hate endings like that. So that was really what ruined it for me. And I, like you said, Heather, I wanted more from the ending, because it felt like it kind of cut off abruptly. And then I was like, wait, is this like the first of a series or something? And I tried to look online and I'm like, I'm not seeing anything about it being a series. So I was like, oh, this is disappointing. So
I'm not sure if there will be more. I feel like the way it ended, it would be unfair if there wasn't more to it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know. So I don't want to interrupt, Vanessa, if you have more to say. Okay, I was gonna say, so anybody that's been here regularly knows that Vanessa and I are pretty much on the opposite ends of the spectrum of what we like and what we don't like. So I was kind of opposite. I had a really hard time getting into it. I probably would have DNF'd it if it weren't for reading it here with the book club, because I was just like really not feeling like I was making connections to Mari. I was not feeling like her voice was resonating with me. And I was using a new e-reader system and it felt very disjointed for me. So I wasn't sure if it was, and I had mentioned this in our group chat. I'm like, does anybody else get the feeling that this narration is really jumpy? Like that the scenes are almost like jumping weirdly around. And they said they didn't. So I don't know if that was just like something with the e-reader, like that I couldn't see like the page breaks and I couldn't see, like I could only see the chapter like headings. So like if there was like a big like scene indicator change page break, I wasn't able to see that necessarily on my phone. So that like I really had a hard time kind of getting into the story. And I was reading a kind of similar, I'm going to say like very like loosely similar story at the same time, and I was much more engaged with the narrator of the other story, so it kind of felt like it was just really hard for me to engage with. And then it did start picking up for me in the middle, but I will agree that I was like disappointed with the ending. It just didn't seem I don't know, it didn't seem like it was how I wanted it to end. Like I wanted more, yes, but I wanted it more in terms of like, all right, are we going to do it? Are we going to go right into the spoilers? Should we just, okay. I it's usually me that gets to this point, right?
Really quick, Alicia, I just wanted to comment because Kaylee in the comments talking about sprinting, but we're not sprinting, we're doing a book club discussion. So you can feel free to organize and clean your house and write
and just listen
in the background. But we won't be sprinting, so just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a good point. You might have to time yourself. Although it will be about an hour from the start of the video till when we're done. So if you are sprinting, that might be a way to time yourself. Yeah. So the ending felt very kind of like Deus Ex Machina, right? Like there's like this machine savior at the end, like everything's wrapped up, and that it was always people. She was always alive, living in the basement. Like I really was convinced we were dealing with something freaking normal here. And I was disappointed to find out that it wasn't, like I was like, oh, I wanted this to be a real ghost story day. As much as it could be.
That was actually one of the things I liked about it, was because I didn't expect that at all. I thought that they were ghosts, and even that first, I was drawn in by that first prologue, which in retrospect was John, but it was there were those clues, but I don't know. So I think because I was expecting it, I did like that they weren't ghosts, because it was, it kind of felt like El Orfanato, which is a movie by Guillermo del Toro, and that was kind of similar thing. There was a kid, one of the orphans was in this basement, hidden there, and with a bag over his head, and so it was just, it kind of reminded me of that. So I kind of liked it because it still gave me the creepy vibes that I was looking for. I did see an interview that Tiffany had done with We Need Diverse Books that said she was inspired by the story by I guess there was a true story of something similar happening in Japan or something like that, and she was just fascinated by it. She kind of wanted to incorporate it. But I have seen some reviewers saying that they kind of wished that it was more, just paranormal and just ghosts, and not realistic in the way that it was. But I could see, Holly and I were actually just talking about that because we had watched a scary movie on Halloween, and we were like, yeah, sometimes the realistic is scarier, the boogeyman type of thing. But I appreciate both. So, and I'm that's a story that, this is the story that she wanted to tell. So,
yeah. And I think because I was it took me so long to feel like I was engaged. I really didn't feel like I was engaged until page 150, which is significantly past my DNF point. If I'm not engaged in a book by about page 50, I usually am that's it. I just have so many other books that are on my list that I want to read. I'm going to die with a list that'll never be completed. And so life is really just too short for me to be reading books that I'm not trying to tear through, and I would have been okay, maybe I'll try and pick this up again at another point. And, but sometimes if I'm on that cusp of am I engaged? Could I be engaged? I'll give myself another 25 pages. So even if I was engaged by page 75, I would not have finished probably, because it really took me until about the middle chunk of the book. And I enjoyed the middle chunk of the book. I was okay, I can see this. We're starting to kind of get somewhere, and, things like that. So
it seemed like she was laying a lot of breadcrumbs, that kind of slow build.
Yeah, that slow burn kind of. Yeah, which is maybe just Vanessa was saying, it's personal preference. My personal preference might be that I don't want that slow burn as much. I want it a little bit faster.
Yeah, I ran over to my laptop because I'm I don't want it to go to sleep and then close out. So I will figure things out, but I can't pull up comments right now. But Lois said she agreed with Heather and Vanessa. This had the potential to be a 5, but the end dropped it to a 4. I did love the pacing of this book, though, which made the ending feel even more abrupt. I was where are the rest of the pages? I did see that as a thing in a lot of the reviews. They were it ended really abruptly.
I mean, I definitely agreed that it ended abruptly. I was
yeah,
I was where's the rest of the pages too? And because I already thought I was having problems with the app, I was
right. Oh,
I'm because I was reading it on my phone,
Right. So I actually tried to do the Vanessa technique. This is what I'm calling it now. It has been dubbed the Vanessa technique, with listening to the audiobook and reading at the same time, which I did really like. But then I became really invested in it. And so then when I wasn't near my book, when I was driving and stuff, I'm well, I want to know what's going to happen. So then I just ended up listening to the audiobook. But I did start out with both, which I really liked because it gave me that voice that I was looking for while I was reading, which I thought was it was really cool. So I'll have to try it again for a future book. But I did like Tiffany's writing because I've read most of her books except for the rhyme one. I'm blanking on it. I'm sorry.
Let me hear
a rhyme. Yeah, that's the only one I haven't read yet, but I've loved all the other ones. But I did feel like this one was a little bit weaker. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars as well. But for me, so I don't have a bed bug phobia, but I have a family member who does have one. And so it was very real for me because I could see like how obsessed she was, like that like OCD level of fear was like, I could see that like from my past like experiences. So that just like made me like, can we like not talk about these bed bugs? It's like, and I feel like it was okay that it was there, but there was a lot of it. And I mean, she had to show her anxiety and like that true phobia, how it really overtakes her in every single thing, but it still was hard to read. Alicia?
I was going to say one of the things that I thought that Tiffany did really well in crafting this story was surrounding the bed bugs. And like, because we saw how every second, the bed bugs were even in Mari's mind, it became just like, that's all she could think about, except for when it came to saving Sammy or when it came to saving Piper. And I thought that was a really nicely done technique. I thought she did a great job of like, because that fear is so like much at Mari's core at this point, right? Like it's shaped everything up to this point. And she was able to like put that aside to work on saving her siblings. And I thought that was really a poignant point, like she did a really good job with that characterization. So
Right.
Yeah, agree that the bed bugs were a little much, but we think about it in how it was used to serve that growth aspect of Martin's arc. It works for me.
Exactly.
And it is a real problem. And kind of like people, if they've had infestations in the past, like feeling that sensation that they're still there.
Yeah.
So I commend her for
Right.
writing a character who has that phobia. And, like we said with the with our family members' experience, like this is realistic. Like people who have
That's
the
why I was like,
before.
she probably has this because it just seemed like she was in her head. It didn't seem like it's like, oh yeah, let me ask these people who have these bed bug phobias, like what they think about. I was like, no, this is probably like all her. I don't know. I haven't read anything to see if she actually has this phobia or not.
Yeah. But I will say too, like, so done some traveling and have had a bed bug experience, not infestation, but experience. And I like had some like minor, almost like PTSD the first time I walked back into the room of like where it happened. So I feel like that was also very realistic. And I agree, Holly, that she probably had some kind of experience, even if it wasn't like a full infestation. Because I even was like, okay, like, and I mean, like everything was fine. We didn't have an infestation, but I mean, there was definitely some concerns that we had. We were doing some traveling and, because it can happen anywhere. And I think that is a really well done aspect. And I guess I didn't realize how prevalent it was until that part of the conversation. But I have a really close friend who has had a bigger infestation problem related to travel. And this seems kind of accurate again of like how that friend has dealt with things since then. And it's not necessarily like for that friend, it's not necessarily the like deep anxiety paranoia, but there's very specific routines that happen when that friend comes home now from any traveling, and when anybody comes home from any traveling. And I find myself asking like if my boss is traveling and I'm like, hi, like, are we sure that we're going to bring this in? Can I put it in the dryer? Because he has bed bugs, right? Like, and they're like, no, it's fine. They would have found. I'm like, but don't you know? Like, do you know? What do you know? so yeah, I think it was a lot for us, but like it's really an important thing to talk about too, because there's such a stigma around bed bugs. People think like, oh, if you have bed bugs or if you have a bed bug experience, that there's that you're dirty or you're not washing your sheets, or it's just not that at all. Like you can get bed bugs from anywhere, and I think that's really hard for people who've never had an experience to understand. So I think that was a nice point too, to like kind of shed some light on that stigma surrounding bed bugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what about let's go into some of the characters, because I kind of want to talk about them, dive deeper into least favorite characters and why. Anyone want to start?
Yeah,
I guess for me, like, so the one thing that I noticed was that usually, like, the main character is just like, oh yeah, that's my favorite character. But for this one, it was really hard for me to pick a favorite character, because, and I listened to the audiobook, but I finished it so fast, so I can't remember if it's Mary or Mari.
I've been pronouncing it Mari because it's short for well, I guess, but it's short for marigold. So
do you remember the audiobook?
I actually don't remember how they pronounce it
because I finished this such a long time ago.
I think it's Mari.
Mari, that's what I think so too. I guess it was a little bit hard for me to connect with her because of the phobia and also her, like, drug use, like her addiction to it. I was just like, I don't get it. And then, it's not like I have to have all these things in common with the main characters, but it made me feel like a little more disconnected. I couldn't get as close because of that disconnect. So, but I did feel like she was a strong main character, but I just can't really pick like a favorite, I guess. And as far as least favorite, I would say Piper, but like partially she was like, overtaken. But that's one of the things too with like, okay, now you have a step parent, you have a stepsister, there's like this mixed family and those dynamics. So that made for kind of interesting like family dynamics and yeah. So.
The reason why I was I'm hesitating is because I also had a hard time kind of picking my favorite characters. Like, I don't really know. I mean, I like, it's not that I like greatly disliked any of the characters, even the, bad characters, quote unquote. None of them really just like stood in the spotlight to me. I mean, so I like don't have an answer to this one.
I'm kind of the same. Like, I think partially because like I was like so like prepared to DNF it, which is hard. Like it's hard. But I mean, I had been reading a lot of things that I'd been really enjoying leading up to this. Like everything that I read, like the last 10 books I read before this were books that I was like, yes, I'm really enjoying this. So I think a little biased on that too, that I just was like not able to connect. And so, but I really did like Sammy. I thought Sammy was a good character. Thought he was kind of funny, and like I really liked seeing Mari's kind of relationship with him. I would say Piper and Alex are kind of like tied for me as like least favorite characters, because at first I never got why she was so like having problems with Alex. And then like he started making comments like those people, and like just like certain things like throughout. I'm like, okay, like she is seeing, like, if we treat it as this character is really living her life, like it's not a work of fiction, but like this character is alive, there's obviously things that we don't know on the outside. And so by the time I started seeing those things about Alex, but then, at the end of it, he kind of came around for me. Like, so, and Piper, I'm like, she's a bratty kid. I wouldn't want to spend significant amounts of time with her, but I also spend significant amounts of time with real children. So I don't think I would be like, oh, the 10-year-old or whatever she is, however old she is, 7, 8, whatever, however old Piper is my least favorite character, because I was already suspecting that she was possessed, right? So I'm like, I feel bad for this kid. Like, somebody help this child. She's possessed, rather than like, focusing on her brattiness. So I didn't necessarily have like strong favorites or strong favorites too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of saw it as like she's like trying to get attention, like kind of felt left out at different times, and yeah, she was kind of like just acting like a kid.
Yeah, she's brat. But I think with reason, like
right.
So, yeah. What about you, Vanessa?
So, my favorite was Sammy. I had to go back and look at some of my notes, but yeah, I really like Sammy, especially the scene where he stands up for Mari and he's like, well, if she's going, I'm going with her. I'm going to Dad's with her. And he's like, she's not crazy. I saw it too.
Right.
So I really like that scene with them. And so I think Sammy was one of my favorites, which I did get confused at one point because Sammy is younger than her, right? But at one point in the middle, I saw something about them being twins, and I was like, "What?"
Oh.
There was a sentence somewhere in the middle, and I didn't have anything to bookmark it at the time, which I wish I did now. But it had said something about them, something about twins, and I was like, "Wait, I thought he was younger."
Was that when they were talking about the kids, like John's family?
Was that his
twins in that? Because I thought Sammy was significantly younger, or that like maybe they looked a lot alike, but that like he was significantly younger. So I'm not sure about that. If anybody else in the comments knows,
I'm not sure. Yeah, or maybe it was like they were like maybe someone was comparing them to being like twins.
Maybe.
Probably.
That was the only part that kind of confused me for a moment. But anyway, so Sammy was one of my favorites. My least favorite was Alec. I didn't care for Alec at all, especially some of the comments he would make, and pretty much the way he treated Mari. Like, yeah, I get it. If she messed up, it's gonna take a lot to earn back that trust, but at the same time, it's like it feels like you can kind of see how this creates a sort of cycle, in the sense that hold on, let me pull up my notes because I wrote about this in my notes. So
can I add another thing that I thought Tiffany did well while you're looking for that, related to kind of Alex and her mom?
Yeah, I know I wrote it.
Just let me know when you find it. I thought that the way that Tiffany depicted the step family unit was really beneficial, because her dad is still actively a part of her life, even though we never see them on on page, on screen. So they're phone call, but we're like, we don't get to see them like interact.
Mm-hmm.
But so her dad's still actively a part of her life. And, you know, like there was that scene where they talked about how she had like talked to her dad about like how he was like so fine with Alec being in the like her mom's life and as the new spouse and everything. And he's like, I want her to be happy and she's happy and we were just never right for each other. And so like I think that was a really nice way of seeing that portrayed, because there are, you know, and I'm a stepchild. I'm someone's stepchild. So like I have kind of personal insight. Like you can have functioning step families, you know, and like I think that's a good way that she kind of shed some light to take away some of that stigma too, because like they're very clearly co-parenting. It was, you know, like good stuff. And I mean, that's never easy. It's never easy to have children and like have the parents living in different places and have one remarried and one not. And I think that it was really just a healthy way of showing that I want what's best for this other person. And that doesn't necessarily mean being with me just because we had a family together. So I thought that Tiffany did a nice job with that too.
Yeah, I agree.
So I realized I started writing this, but I didn't finish off my complete thoughts on this. So I'll try to remember what I was thinking. But what I was saying was like with Alec and Mari, kind of the relationship. You know, I thought Tiffany did a really good job portraying like what it can be like for people in recovery trying to rebuild trust and relationship with family members. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's a really delicate balance, I think, because it's like you don't want to be, obviously they have to earn back that trust, but at the same time, if you're always being distrustful and you're always like, they're up to something, well, guess what? Eventually, that person is going to be like, well, you don't trust me anyway, even though I'm not doing anything. So I might as well do what you think I'm doing anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of feeds that cycle. And so, you know, it was really interesting to see kind of that relationship dynamic in here, because I was like, you know, I'm sure he means well, but he's going to end up, if he doesn't change, he's going to end up making things worse for Mari than better. And so I thought that was interesting, seeing their relationship dynamic. But he was one that I was like, don't really care for you at all.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's very true. And Lois said that Mari was a very flawed character, which made her realistic, but not someone you'd call your favorite. I do think it took a lot of courage on Jackson's part to write a character like that. So, going through that recovery process, having her flaws. So I do think she did that really well.
And yeah, I think the writing was solid. Like it's not about the writing or her writing abilities or anything like that for me. You know, it's I've been privileged enough, and this is a point of privilege. We're putting it out there. We're going to acknowledge it as is. I've been privileged enough to not have a family member with drug problems, and myself, I don't have drug problems. So that is a privilege, because I think addiction is absolutely a disease, and it's something that we can't just, talk away. Right. And, so I think for me, it's just like my privilege almost acted as a blinder there for a second, because I don't have the experience of having someone, that I love, you know, dealing with addiction and dealing with recovery and, you know, all of that stuff. And I'm very grateful for that. But I think that that kind of acted as a little bit of a blinder, which is another important thing that reason why we do this book club, right? Like we talk about the ways that our privileges and I, as a white woman, you know, like I have significant privileges in this space. And that's why I love being a part of this book club, because I want to help elevate, you know, BIPOC voices. And I think it's important as a white woman to say, this is my privilege. And I am just bringing that to the forefront of the attention, because if I acknowledge that it's my privilege, maybe someone else can too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really liked and appreciated what she did with creating this character with Mari and exploring that side and the addiction and stuff. You know, I don't have that experience either, but I've worked as a substance abuse counselor for 5 years, and so I got to work with a lot of people who do struggle with addiction and alcoholism, and you know, I do get to see how hard it is as well with trying to gain back that family's trust, which is why, you know, I kind of brought that up, that, you know, I think she did a really good job with it. And, you know, it is difficult. It's a, like I said, it's a balancing act where it's like, you know, they have to earn that trust back, but at the same time, you don't always want to continually be distrustful when they haven't done anything to prove that they're just worthy of being distrustful.
Right.
So, yeah, I thought she did a really, really great job with this. I actually reached out to a old coworker that I'm still friends with on Facebook, and we used to talk about books and stuff. And she was in recovery as well. So I was like, "Have you heard about this book? You should check it out and let me know your thoughts," because I think she did a really good job with it.
Nice. Yeah, one of the things I'm really bad at predicting things, but in the back of my head, I was trying to keep in mind that in the past, some of Tiffany Jackson's books have had like unreliable narrators. So in like a little bit, I was like, is there going to be something where, you know, Mari ends up, you know, I don't know. So, but it didn't go that route. But it could have, and I think she kind of was like trying to make it unpredictable in that way. But I thought it was well done how she really made us be invested in Mari as a character. And I mean, I did feel for her and those struggles that she had with her past and everything. So
right. So any scenes that stuck out to you guys that you really liked or were memorable for you?
Well, like I said, I like the scene with Sammy sticking up for Mari. I actually reread that scene twice because I liked it so much. And let me see. I think the other scene that stuck out for me that I really liked was Mari and Yusuf. And I actually did write this one in my notes. But it was when she was talking to Yusuf, and they were talking about her anxiety. And I love that she stood up for herself. And, you know, because Yusuf was kind of like, what do you have to be anxious about? Your life is pretty good compared to, others around here. And I love that she stood up for herself, and she was like, it doesn't matter, and hold on. I'm like trying to get my thoughts together. But basically she was like, anxiety, it doesn't, just because someone has a good life or looks like a good life from the outside, it doesn't mean someone can't struggle with anxiety. It's not something you have control over. And it's just, it is what it is. A lot of times it might not make sense, but it's not something you can control or do anything about. And I kind of like that she had Mari stand up for herself with Yusuf and be like, you know what? I have anxiety. It is what it is. So
Right.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I feel like I had mentioned him in my notes, but we haven't talked about him yet. I felt like I was glad that he was a little like that. Their relationship was a little bit under the radar, because I felt like it could have, like, Tiffany Jackson could have made that a little bit strong, like not stronger, but she could have a bigger subplot. And I'm glad that she didn't, because then I felt like it would have gotten in the way of a lot of the other things. She already had a lot there that she was weaving in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that was just a comment because you mentioned Yusuf.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about Yusuf for a second, and Erica both, right? Because I have one of my notes like that he and Erica are foils for each other in regard to how weed is dealt with in this story, right? Because he's like they're diametrically opposed. He's absolutely not, because all of the relatives of everybody in this town are wrong place, wrong time, carted off, put in jail for the rest of their lives for weed. And Erica is I need weed to cope with the fact that all of this has happened. And I thought that she played those two off each other really well. I liked their friendship, and so one of the things I really liked that they're kind of related to is the fact that this prison system is literally existing in this town. Okay, I didn't like this, but I like how it was portrayed, right? I want to be clear about that. I don't appreciate the way that prison systems are designed to systematically repeat problems for generations. And I can put that and leave that as is. But I thought that she did a nice job. And actually the first time the prison got mentioned was when I kind of started clicking in to like the story. I'm like, okay, like this could be really important, because we're talking about, some of those like new Jim Crow type laws and like these things of how these for-profit prisons are just meant to ruin people's lives. Anyway, especially on drug offenses. So I thought that the way that was dealt with, I think would be really, maybe not well received, but like related to, it would resonate well with any teenagers reading this story, because they could relate to this potentially. Like small towns anywhere could relate to this, right? And the way that the community was trying to be gentrified, and the way that they were trying to, push people of color out of their community. I thought that that motif arc was excellent throughout. And that was one of the first things that connected me to the story. Not that I feel like I've lived in a community, once again, my point of privilege, of a neighborhood being gentrified, but of the fact that I know it exists and I care about social justice issues. So for me, I'm okay, now I'm in. This is wrong. Mari. And Holly's laughing because she knows I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, and she's like, "Yep, there it is. There's Alicia. She's come to play."
It's funny how everything makes sense whenever you'll say something and just I'm like, oh yeah, it's the 8. Like
yeah. And I saw you laughing, and I knew why you were laughing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But yeah, so like 8s on the Enneagram, we often care about fairness and justice for people. Like that's like a very like top tier concern for 8s on the Enneagram. So for me, watching Mari kind of like fight for this, that's something I can get behind too. And that was when I kind of started relating to her in that even though this isn't her community yet, it's her community now. And she's willing to fight for it because she's got people that she's starting to care about in this community. And so I thought that whole motif arc throughout was really well like researched, maybe lived, unfortunately, and thought out and presented. And I think that will resonate with people a lot because it was subtle, but it was almost like the jail was its own character, right? And I think I would have liked to have seen some more development on that and like dealing with the jail and dealing with things. But back to Vanessa's point at the beginning of the video, it seems like there should be more because now I want to know like as things stand at the end of the book, the community's on fire again. And like the rich white people are getting exactly what they wanted and getting this neighborhood of color displaced.
Yeah. Are we going to get another book? I don't know.
Yeah, because
give us another book.
Eric was arrested, right? And then, but we don't really know what happens after. You know, it'd be nice to have like kind of the follow through with that.
Yeah.
And you know, and with Sammy, so there were just a lot of like things that we needed more closure on. To Lois's point, that's exactly what I was going to say. My favorite scenes were all of the scary ones. Like I was just picturing like, okay, when she's like in the basement, one of my favorite scenes was when she, you know, she's like just seeing, you know, the empty, you know, soup or whatever cans around. And then there's just this like, you know, John's there holding the axe. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like what? I would just like pee my pants and like scream and curl into a ball in the corner and not know what to do. Or like when she is like getting grabbed by Sammy, but then she hears like Sammy's voice downstairs, like, and then it's like, that's not me. And I'm like, what the heck? That's so creepy.
Yep.
So all of the ones like that, like those, I mean, there were many scary scenes, but definitely a highlight because I like to be scared.
Yeah, like Lois said, definitely she can write a scary scene. I definitely agree.
It was a good October pick. It was a good October spooky pick.
It was the perfect
We're good.
And Barrett's here. Hi, Barrett. No worries that you're late. You can always watch the replay as well to catch what we chatted about earlier. Barrett says, I guess I took the ending to be a reflection of the reality that is, and it really hit me emotionally. Yeah. And so sometimes it's like there's not there isn't answers. Like we know from Alicia's story idea, she was literally saying, yeah, and then it just will end. And
I was just gonna say that my nano project. It's gonna end. There's not gonna be a definitive resolution to it, because there can't be for that story. That's not the point of that story for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I was like, "Ooh, Vanessa, don't read this." But also, Vanessa, could you read this because I would appreciate your input. But like, it's a crappy first draft, guys. Nobody's reading it right now.
I'm like Heather and Lois. Like the creepy parts for me, obviously, that reveal that like Miss Suga and John were like actually alive, but also when like her friend Teresa got like FaceTime 20 times and she's like, yeah, like, why were you trying to and you weren't saying anything. And just, it was just a silhouette of your like shadow of a girl. And it was like, that creeped me out. And then when Mari blamed Piper, who was like, oh no, that's Miss Suga, my invisible friend. And then Yusef's like, wait, like, I know who Miss Suga it like what? And so that like kind of mic drop moment of like, wait a minute, like this is a real person, but that's her imaginary friend. Like, yeah, that was super, super creepy for me.
That's what made it seem like it was going to be like this paranormal ghost story.
Right.
Because we're thinking like, okay, she died, so is she a ghost? Is she a witch? Like, what is she?
Right.
And ended up being she just survived, which I actually, with that ending, I don't know. I think maybe because I've read that sort of twist before, so I wasn't as disappointed this time. But I remember the first time I read a book with that twist where I thought it was going to be a supernatural thing and it ended up being something realistic. I was super disappointed. I was like, what the heck? I wanted this to be a ghost type of thing.
Right.
It's always like those stories where it's like, it was all a dream, or like the person wakes up, or or, so some people are gonna love it and some people are gonna hate it.
Yeah. So I think it just because this wasn't my first one, so I was like a little less disappointed this time around with it.
Got it.
Yeah, it wasn't disappointment for me as much as it was like, meh. Like it felt like it just like, I mean, it gets to the point that like the boogeyman is real, right? The boogeyman is what you see in the mirror, right? And it gets to that point. But I don't read to be reminded of that. I read to be reminded that like other things can happen, No.
True. That is true.
But like, so I mean, she did well with that. That like the monsters are real, like that, dealing with that idea of like the monsters are real, the monsters are us, right?
Which that's another thing that I really like that she did with this was that, we're thinking the monsters are John and Miss Sugar and her family, and it's not them at all. It's everyone else. That
anybody related to the Sterling side of things.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing she did there. I was like, oh wow. And the way she explored how, people how people react out of fear or out of certain beliefs. They believe this thing about John and about the family, and that's what led them to commit this atrocity. And so, that just goes to show how powerful our beliefs are and our fears.
Right. Right.
And I know we're getting towards time of where we kind of wrap things up for people usually, but I just wanted to say like one other thing that I really did enjoy was Tiffany's use of the olfactory sense, like the smell of decay that was always whenever Miss Sugar or John was around. And then you like realize like it was because Buddy like chopped off his finger and like, and like they don't have Band-Aids and stuff down there. So like, yeah, like there's some decay happening. And, like, like I think like adding in that extra sense of it's not just what you can see or feel or touch, but it's like the smell of it too. So like it really felt like a whole sensory experience.
Right. That was like disgusting when she goes down there and she's like, oh, that's what we've been smelling through the vents.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's
I was not.
Yeah, I like what Barrett says. Yes, it was a nope for me. Thank you for reading this scary book. So he said, I liked the book. The ending left me thinking about the story for a bit after reading it. Yeah, I mean that's why I like read it so fast. That's why I was planning on reading it and listening to the audiobook at the same time, and I was like, I gotta find out what's gonna happen. I have to listen to this thing in like 5 days. And well, any last thoughts about the book? Anything you're itching to discuss before we wrap up? Other than I'm glad that the dog did not die.
Amen to that.
That I was glad about that too.
And I was like, we're not playing. We don't play with dogs dying. And like that would have been a trigger warning for me. I need to know that information.
Yep.
Well, so thanks everyone. If you have any other thoughts that you would like to discuss, feel free to put them in the comments, or you can head over to our Goodreads group where the forum thread for the book will still be open, as along with all the other books that we've read. So we've kind of, this year has been a big like mystery, thriller, suspense, scary, spooky vibe. We read other genres too, but our book club pick for November is Beasts and Beauty by Soman Nani. And these are 12 dangerous tales of mystery, magic, and rebellious hearts. So these are fairy tale retellings. And I just love the cover. So I'm on retelling 4, I think, and really good so far. So please.
And there's like art.
Yes.
There's drawings like in the book too.
Yes.
So
please get the physical copy. It's gorgeous.
Holly, can you give the trigger warnings again for that? Or do we have them somewhere still?
Oh, yes.
Because that would be probably helpful for anybody that has
Thank you. Because I was like, did we do? Oh, that's why I don't remember, because I wasn't the one who did those ones. I am sorry.
Or if Vanessa has them up close.
I'm gonna pull it up. Thank you for reminding me. So our let me go to our polls here. Okay, so trigger warnings for Beasts and Beauty are child abuse, human trafficking, racism, rape, murder, violence, and cannibalism.
So it's real light, you guys. Everything's real light with this.
Super light books.
As I'm reading it, like my face is like, huh? What?
I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I need you guys to read ahead and tell me some of the like warnings. Some of those, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna read some of these.
Now it says ages 10 and up. Like the School for Good and Evil is like middle grade, and I guess this I think this is considered middle grade as well, but his writing is so strong that it has a YA feel to it. And there's some good messages in here. So a holiday read. I wish I could put those up there. I came over here because there was an echo. So
I mean, I think that one of the reasons why I really wanted to pick this book was because if you didn't have a lot of time during November, if you're doing NaNoWriMo, you just read a few of the stories. I'll try to read them all. But if there's any story that you're like, oh no, like you get to a part, you could just skip it.
So hopefully we'll see all of your faces here next month.
Yeah.
Oh,
Teresa. Sorry. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I was just gonna say, can I mention something really quick?
Yeah.
So for next month, for you guys that know that I do the Writing Diversely series on my YouTube channel, next month, December 2nd, I'm going to be interviewing Ryan Douglas, who wrote The Taking of Jake Livingston.
Yes.
If you guys want to join me for that interview, I'm super excited about it.
That would be awesome. Yes. It's Vanessa's channel is linked down below. So go ahead and subscribe to Vanessa, and you have that preset already, correct? So you can set a reminder already.
Mm-hmm.
And
awesome.
I was just going to say, Teresa, if you get a chance to watch and comment, we would love to hear what you thought of the book as well, because Teresa, our other regular co-host, was not able to be here today, but she, I know, read it as well. And I'm sure if there were any comments that you wanted to share on Goodreads or over here in the comments, Teresa, we would love to hear them.
I realized, I have to close out the live stream, so I gotta go to that computer.
You gotta go back to the other room.
Talk. Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, it's literally like 2 steps away. So
Yeah. There she is. She's back again.
Okay, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next month.
Bye.